Welcome to Twilight on CRTV News. I am Moki Edwin Kinzaka in Yaoundé. Today we shall be talking about the Governors' Conference that is in session in Yaoundé today. Ebenezer Kanga, senior journalist and senior reporter of the Political Desk Service, or the Political Service, will be talking to us about the recommendations made by the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganche. We shall also look at issues at stake as Parliament is meeting in Yaoundé with Senator Fon Lekunze Nembo, who is from the Southwest region. And please do not miss Dr. Richard Munang, who is Africa Green Champion. The program begins with the news and is with Joyce Abigail. Joyce, good evening.
Thank you, Moki.
Cameroon state governors say the regions are faring well, and as such, they are ready for the regional elections of December 6th.
Yes, Moki, they gave the assurance earlier this morning at the start of a two-day biannual meeting, which is being chaired by Territorial Administration boss Paul Atanganche. Top of the agenda, amongst other things, is to guarantee a hitch-free regional election on December 6, 2020. Our reporter, Clarence Nguer, was at the Yaoundé City Council, where he put together the following reactions.
We are going like we did for the presidential elections. The regional elections are also going to be organized in the Northwest region. The electorates are mobilized. The polling station has been identified.
The region is ready for the election. Measures are being put in place to make sure that election will take place like the past election, and more than the past elections.
Situation is a return to normalcy. Nowadays, Boko Haram seem to be behind us, and we are accompanying population to go back to our areas and carry out the daily basis.
The situation is very peaceful in Adamawa region. The phenomenon of hostage taking has been reduced totally because of the reinforcement of soldiers and other militaries.
Security situation is improving now in Central African Republic, and at our border the security situation is under control.
The electoral colleges for the upcoming regional council election can, as from November 16th, be in possession of their voters' cards. The distribution process has started in all the 10 regions of the country. In the Fundi division, over 431 are expected to collect their cards. Rita Makang was at the Fundi divisional branch in Yaoundé and put together the following report.
Voters' cards with two different colors for the two electoral colleges. Pink for traditional authorities and yellow for municipal councillors.
Le département de Fundi a reçu ses cartes d'électeurs depuis jeudi.
The Fundi division received its voters' cards last Thursday, and what we did is that we shared them into the various subdivisions. Since morning, we have distributed 5 cards. 4 to traditional rulers and 1 to a municipal councillor.
According to the Electoral Code, the distribution process is within 20 days.
If after this time period a voter has not collected his card, he will still have the chance to vote on the D-Day because the cards will be available at the various Elekam branches. Elekam Fundi has thought of a strategy to reach out to voters. We will work with mayors in order to distribute the cards on the spot in their various municipalities.
The Fundi division has a total of 431 voters, that is 281 municipal councillors and 150 traditional rulers.
Consumer Association watchdog PATYCHOU has organized a sensitization workshop on the rights of consumers with regards to bottled water and brewery products. The move is intended to ensure that drinks of doubtful quality are kicked out of the market in the country. Let's take a listen to Professor Sylvian Sado, an expert in food security. He spoke to our reporter Sali Sona Tafaha.
This workshop, the Association of Consumers that are present here will go out with more information, more practical knowledge on how to detect products that are not conform to the law and to the norms, and to have possibilities to go towards the state and ask the state to put down new laws, or even to vigilate more on the quality of water.
You're watching the 6 p.m. edition. This is CRTV News. The government of Cameroon says its strategy to combat unemployment in the rest of Northwest primarily targets the youth who have been drilled into joining armed groups in the region. The Minister of Youth Affairs and Civic Education, Mumuna Futsu, was on a working visit to the Northwest region, where he inaugurated a poultry house at the Bamenda Ziara Center. Details of the story with Karin Tassam.
Financing of these private-owned projects in the domains of digital economy, agriculture, livestock and innovation is intended to boost production capacity and tackle youth unemployment in the Northwest region dominated by the informal sector.
I have a very big farm. I keep about 100 fowls for now, but with this, I'm sure to expand. I'm looking forward to 300 fowls.
Cultivation of maize and beans on a land surface of 5 hectares. Many people are going to buy beans at Batibo, Bali Market, to come and sell again in town. So it's better to do it in town in such a way that the business should just be round.
Officials of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Civic Education say the project beneficiaries henceforth have a duty to enhance socio-economic development in their localities.
When you are being funded, like those who were just funded today, you now have to employ other young people and make your business to grow so that you can reimburse what has been given to you so that the other young people can benefit.
Minister Mununa Futso has challenged other youths in the region yet to benefit from the financing to come up with innovative projects for eventual sponsorship by the government.
Information reaching CRTV News. For 3 days, cyber security experts will be reflecting on the implementation of a system of references for higher education in electronic security in Cameroon, together with participants drawn from the post and telecommunications and higher education sectors. The workshop underway at the National Advanced School of Post, Telecommunications and ICTs seeks to enforce on the organization of higher education training in the country, and also to harmonize the content of progress. So the program that is being offered, and according to the Inspector General of Services at the Ministry of Post and Telecommunications, representing the Minister, Mr. Ndongo Paul Petit, the overall objective of this particular program is to come up with an electronic security reference in Cameroon. In news out of the country, Peru's interim president Manuel Moreno has resigned less than a week into his new administration after a night of protest calling on him to step down, and a subsequent police crackdown left at least 2 dead and dozens wounded. Asu Gladys tells us more.
Peru's interim president Manuel Moreno resigned Sunday after being in office for only 5 days. His decision followed nearly a week of violent protests in the country following the impeachment of former President Martin Vizcarra. The latest political shakeup comes as Peru battles the coronavirus pandemic and what is expected to be its worst economic contraction in a century. People poured into the streets to celebrate Moreno's departure on Sunday, waving flags, chanting and banging pots, although the news plunges Peru deeper into uncertainty and legal disarray, as legislators now wrestle over who will take his office. Congress is expected to hold a second vote in the evening after a first vote failed to garner majority support for left-wing legislator and human rights defender Rocio Silva Santisteban to be designated interim president. A tense calm prevailed in the capital, Lima, as Peruvians awaited a decision on who the next president would be. In a televised speech, Merino, the former head of Congress, who had led the push to impeach Vizcarra, asked his cabinet to stay on to help in the transition.
Thanks, Gladys Asu. That story draws the curtains for the 6 p.m. edition. You've been in the company of myself, Joyce Abigail. Twilight continues with you, Maki.
Thanks, Joyce.
You're welcome.
Let's have a break. And when we come back, we'll go to Bamenda to meet the Minister of Youth Affairs and Civic Education, Mununa Fotso, at the DDR Center. Welcome to Twilight on CRTV News. I am Moki Edwin Kinzaka.
Au menu décryptage de l'actualité, analyse et commentaires, un plateau riche et alléchant.
Nous allons prendre la direction de la région.
The observations this year are somehow low key when you try to compare this same period.
On sensibilise, nous sommes là, jusqu'à présent, on continue à sensibiliser. Ceux qui entrent, on sensibilise. Celui qui va entrer en ville, si on l'arrête, il n'est pas notre responsabilité.
Beaucoup de taximans ont profité de cette architecture pour permettre à ce que pouvaient être identifiés. Le décret de 2016.
You have this picture because this is star. Vous allez garder aussi ces photos, non?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Vous avez mobilisé des acteurs du secteur de la littérature. Pourquoi un réveil si brusque?
Les parents n'amènent même pas toujours les enfants à la vaccination de routine du programme élargi de vaccination.
La radio à Sionto. Oui, vous avez Nostalgie.
Nostalgie radio à Douala.
CRTV Littoral.
CRTV Littoral FM 105 avec Cyril Bonico.
Vous avez fait au tourisme télévisuel.
Le joueur de Coton Sport qui tantôt est milieu de terrain, milieu défensif, milieu offensif.
Et là, j'avais marqué le but d'égalisation. Et après, j'ai fait une passe décisive pour le deuxième but qui nous a envoyé directement au 8e de finale pour la première fois une Coupe du Monde.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.
Over 100 projects set up by youths in the Northwest region have received financial assistance from the government of the Republic of Cameroon. The Minister of Youth Affairs and Civic Education, Mununa Fotso, was in Bamenda over the weekend to hand some of those gifts. He also visited the DDR Center. Our reporter on the line to Bamenda is Karin Tosam. Karin, good evening. Are you there, Karin? Karin Tosam, good evening. Apparently, you have difficulties having Karin Tosam on the line to Bamenda. But if you are listening to us, Karin, I just want to know, how was the minister's stay in Bamenda?
Okay. Thank you for joining us. The minister's stay in Bamenda was a one-day visit. And what I will tell you is that it was a very busy day for the minister and his entourage. The visit was characterized into 3 phases. First of all, he began by visiting the Northwest Center for Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration. It is here in Bamenda. And there, the main message the Minister of Youth Affairs and Civic Education passed to the ex-fighters was that they should, of course, they should stay, they should believe in their country, they should believe in the Republican values, and that they should understand that the country, the government is doing everything to make sure that they are successfully reintegrated into the society. And one major thing that he promised them is that they should participate there at the DDR Center for their own empowerment so that subsequently they can be reintegrated, and that the 3-year special youth plan is also available to finance some of the projects that these youths might come up with eventually. And he also used the opportunity to invite the ex-fighters that they should use, they should be ambassadors. They should act as ambassadors to their comrades who are still in the bushes, that they should preach the opportunities they have at the center and use those opportunities to pull out others from the bushes. And, of course, he also continued the visit. He was at the Northwest, the explanade of the Northwest Governor's Office, and here he distributed checks. He distributed checks, and of course he also handed over some equipment to the youth who came up with projects, who set up projects for sponsorship under the 3-year special youth plan. And one thing I should mention that took place at the DDR Center, Moki, if I should come back to that, was that the minister inaugurated a umbrella that has the capacity of 1,500. A poultry house, rather, that has the capacity of 1,500 broilers. And he promised that, of course, this is not going to be the last. It's a project that is going to continue. And at the governor's office, so many youths received the checks. Those that were working as volunteers in camp activities also received certificates of recognition. And these are just some of the projects that were executed in the course of these 3 years here in the Northwest region. And the youth were encouraged to actually still come up with projects. Earlier, that Saturday, when the event took place, I spoke with the Director of Community Life and Youth Participation in the Ministry of Youth Affairs. She is Madame Ngerikia Mbeme, and she told me that the funds made available for the 3-year special youth plan, they have not even used half of those funds. So she encouraged youth here in the Northwest region to design projects that will be sponsored eventually, because they still have a lot of funds available for the youths, not just in the Northwest region, but of course in other parts of the country.
Karin, those who benefited, were they only from Bamenda Center? I want to think about the security situation of that part of the country.
No, Moki, they were not just from Bamenda Central. It is a project that was designed since. So the youth that benefited came from the 34 subdivisions that make up the Northwest region. They all came out from the different fairs, and of course they had representatives like the divisional delegates that came from all the 7 divisions of the Northwest region. So it's not something that was centralized to Bamenda only. The youths were drawn from all over the region.
Now, before you leave us, you say a poultry farm was inaugurated there at the DDR Center, and you spoke about the capacity. But who are the workers of that poultry farm? Have the ex-fighters been trained to take care of the chicken, the fowls, the poultry?
Of course. The ex-fighters have received a lot of training, not just to take care of those fowls. They have received, in the course of their stay there, they received training on other issues. They received training on ICT. They received training on entrepreneurship. They received training on the saloon business, the beauty and aesthetics sector, and all those other aspects that make up our society, especially the Northwest region here. And, of course, now that you've asked me, I would like to highlight that those youths, especially those of the DDR, they use the opportunity to present a gift, kind of something that they have come up with in the course of their stay there. They designed something which they handed over to the minister. And they also use the opportunity, most of them use their senior prefect there, because they have a senior prefect who coordinates all their activities within the center. And through the senior prefect, the youth there apologized to the government for all the atrocities they committed, not just to the Northwest region, but to the entire country.
Karin Tosam, thanks very much for being there.
Thank you for having me.
Let's have another break, and when we come back, we shall move to Nairobi in Kenya to meet Dr. Munang, who is a Cameroonian and is the winner of the African Green Champion Award. Welcome to Twilight on CRTV News. I am Moki Edwin Kinzaka.
Au menu décryptage de l'actualité, analyse et commentaires, un plateau riche et alléchant.
Nous allons prendre la direction de la région
The observations this year are somehow low-key when you try to compare this same period.
On sensibilise, nous sommes là, jusqu'à présent, on continue à sensibiliser. Ceux qui entrent, on sensibilise. C'est lui qui va entrer en ville, si on l'arrête, il n'est pas notre respect.
Beaucoup de taximans ont profité de cette architecture pour permettre à ce que pouvait être identifié. Le décret de 2016.
To have this picture because this is star.
Vous allez garder aussi ces photos, non?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Vous avez mobilisé des acteurs du secteur de la littérature. Pourquoi un réveil si brusque?
Les parents n'amènent pas toujours les enfants à la vaccination de routine du programme élargi de vaccination.
La radio à Sionto.
Oui, vous avez Nostalgie.
Nostalgie radio à Douala.
CRTV Littoral.
CRTV Littoral FM 105 avec Cyril Vidéo.
Vous avez fait au tourisme télévisuel.
Le joueur de coton sport qui tantôt est milieu de terrain, milieu défensif, milieu offensif.
Et là, j'avais marqué le but d'égalisation. Et après, j'ai fait une passe décisive pour le deuxième but qui nous a envoyé directement au 8e de finale pour la première fois une Coupe du Monde.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.
Thanks for watching Twilight on CRTV News. Cameroonian-born Dr. Richard Munang is African Green Champion. He won that award just last week in Nairobi, Kenya. And we got Dr. Richard Munang earlier on. I'm sure he's on the line to Nairobi in Kenya now. Dr. Richard Munang, it should have been very good news for Cameroon, very good news for you, and some sort of good news for Africa. Can you talk to us about what that award implies?
For having me, Moki. It's a great pleasure to be here today. My name is Dr. Richard Munang, and I am the Africa Regional Climate Change Coordinator with the United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP. This award is the Africa Green Champion Award 2020. This entails a lot, Moki. It entails inspiration. It entails validation of the work that I've been doing African continent. It entails the structured guidance that we've actually leveraged to guide young people to be able to inspire and motivate them to be able to take climate action and drive innovative environmental solutions across the continent. Because let's face it, as we're speaking today, 400,000 Africans die each and every year as a result of indoor pollution. This comes as a result of depending on charcoal, which is having impact on our forest ecosystems. Our mothers in villages are being choked by indoor pollution coming as a result of depending on charcoal. So engaging young people and helping them so that at least they can be able to use agricultural waste to turn it to what we call briquettes so that our mothers can use is actually an innovation that is being carried across the entire African continent today. That's just an example. We talk about chemicalized fertilizers. So in reality, the award was actually recognizing and validating these innovative approaches that we've actually driven across the continent to leverage climate action as an investment opportunity, to leverage climate action as a socio-economic solution to the many challenges that we actually face in the continent. This involved all the 54 African countries because the work we do covers all 54 African countries. Thank you very much for that question, Moki.
Seemingly getting some technical hitches there, meeting Dr. Munang in Nairobi, Kenya. But Doctor, if you are still there, we gathered that about the whole Africa was involved in that competition, and also some came out of Africa to participate, and you were chosen. What do you think made you stronger than the other people, Doctor?
Stronger to emerge in winning this award was actually the innovativeness that I brought into the environmental space. As we're speaking today, we have challenges that are plaguing the entire African continent. We have 257 million citizens who go to bed each and every day hungry. We have 12 million youth get into the labor market to compete only with 3 million jobs. But those jobs are not there. And most of them take perilous routes, burying themselves under the Mediterranean Sea in search of elusive greener pastures. As we are speaking today, we have challenges of land degradation. We have challenges of indoor pollution. So when you put all these, food insecurity, youth unemployment, ecological degradation, and indoor pollution that kills up to about 400,000 Africans, these challenges need solutions. But there is no silver bullet solution that can be able to address these challenges at one go. But when you look at it very critically, what you notice is that we actually have one of the biggest sovereign assets, what I call sovereign capital, which are our youth, our young people, who constitute over 60% of the entire African population. So over 400 million youth sometimes are seen as a problem, which is wrong. I see them as solutions. I see them as solution providers. But they can only become solution providers if they are actually looked through a different lens and three things are done. Firstly, they are Africa's sovereign asset. Secondly, they need inspiration and motivation. Thirdly, to actually ensure that they become a dividend, they need to be invested. There needs to be investments on them. And the biggest investment is to help them retool their skills, tap their talents, and ensure that even those who have the skills, they can be adapted to address the multiplicity of challenges. As a result of this, I innovated and came up with an innovative approach called innovative volunteerism, which is simple: providing structural guidance to these young people, structurally guiding them, inspiring them, and encouraging them to be able then to tap into the challenges space and turn those challenges into opportunities. Taking agricultural waste and turning it into biofertilizers to replace chemicalized fertilizers. Taking agricultural waste and turning it into briquettes to replace charcoal. These examples are visible across the continent, and as a result of innovative volunteerism, we've actually guided over 1 million youth to be able to retool their skills to drive these solutions and ensure that they are impacting community, helping mothers to put more money in their pockets. For example, we are talking in a continent that loses post-harvest losses, mothers losing their corn, mothers losing their cassava, mothers losing their tomato. So they need simple solutions like solar dryers that can then be able to reverse the post-harvest losses. And these youth have been inspired. Now they are fabricating these solar dryers and decentralizing them to communities. And these solar dryers are produced using local material that is 200 times cheaper than imported material. And these youth, as a result of fabricating these solar dryers, because they've been guided, they've retooled their skills, are putting money in their pockets, helping mothers in villages dry their produce and put more money in their pockets and put food on the table.
Interesting. That
Thank you again, Moki.
Quite interesting there, Dr. Richard Munang. But before you leave us, Doctor, what are your plans? What are your expectations?
And is to build on these success stories and leverage more youth, because as I said, over 60% of the population in the continent is youthful. So we will engage these 400 million youth so that at least they can now tap into this innovative volunteerism and make it become the norm and not the exception, because the reality is that young people are Africa's sovereign asset, and engaging and motivating them and building on these examples that have been validated further by this award, Africa Green Champions Award 2020, is the way forward, because to drive transformational change, you need people. And the biggest sovereign capital that we have are the young people, and inspiring them and engaging them to drive this socio-economic transformation is what we will continue to do. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Very interesting there, Dr. Munang Richard. As champion for Africa, please go ahead and remember Cameroon. You are the champion for Cameroon too. Let's have a break. When we come back, we shall have Senator from Lekunze Nembo from the southwest region of the country.
Merci de nous faire confiance comme ceci tous les dimanches. Lorsqu'il est 18h, on a 1h30 à passer ensemble à décrypter toute l'actualité sportive de la semaine.
Aujourd'hui, on a simplement revu l'organigramme et que là, le ministère des Sports ou encore le gouvernement de la République a pris les choses en main.
Vous allez voir que le CHAN est assez symptomatique de la réalité des clubs africains. Quand vous voyez le RD Congo qui a 2 CHAN, le parallèle tout de suite avec la toute-puissance de Mazembe.
Eh bien, mardi, d'abord, Bruges. Pascal Siakam, lui, a contribué à la victoire des Toronto Raptors face au Detroit, 13 points derrière le Paris Saint-Germain. Merci beaucoup.
Parliament is meeting in Yaoundé for the budgetary session, that is to prepare the 2021 budget of the Republic of Cameroon. Our senators and parliamentarians, those from the upper and lower houses of parliament, are here in the nation's capital. One of them is Senator von Lekunze Nembo, who is from the Southwest region, precisely from Lebialem. You're welcome, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Moki.
And nice meeting you again.
Same
now,
here.
Before coming for this session now, I know you've been very busy on the field.
We've been busy doing on-the-ground work to rekindle peace back in our various communities. And some of the positive results are that we have school returns in terms of statistics quite better than the preceding year, for the previous years.
Could you situate where Lebialem is, where your division of origin is? I'm sure it's very close to Nigeria, and then the boundary with Nigeria too.
No, it's in the Southwest region, and it has boundaries with the Western region and the Northwest region. And we are bordered with Manyu, which going down into the Southwest region.
So how would you say the situation is like now in the field, Senator?
Well, I just want to say that the situation is improving, especially in Lebialem, where I come from, though it's still worrying because we don't yet have total peace. We have relative peace, which is unlike before, and we are encouraged that as days go by, things will keep ameliorating till we regain peace. Yeah.
You have come here now when your people say they are expecting the property that was destroyed to be rebuilt, and they're expecting much from the budget. So what would be our expectations as far as the preparation of the budget is concerned?
Yeah, we will be expecting a budget that will focus on the implementation of the recommendations that came from the Major National Dialogue. And one of these recommendations is the presidential plan for the reconstruction and development of the Southwest and Northwest regions. We are quite hopeful because on the side of government and its partners, I think they are quite ready and moving on. But the problem now for us to gain this resilience for our communities is to be well organized and seek peace first in order to gain from this huge budget that the state has opened up for our development.
And you're sure the situation on the field now is the one that will make it possible for these developments that the people badly need to come up?
Sure, Mr. Moki, there can be no development without peace. You would note that I've said before that government and its partners are ready, and the ball is now on the court of the communities to make sure they open up for this. When I say communities, I mean all the stakeholders, including even the warring groups, because there is no development without peace. And for us, even to have our basic needs, for us to put food on our table, we need to open up for this program to come in and put food on our table. So I believe it's for all and sundry as far as the Northwest and Southwest is concerned, including those who have grievances. We must open up to benefit because it's part of our own portion of the national budget, which we can't afford to let it go.
Now, you're coming here now to ask for developments for your own region, for your own people, for your own communities. How would you evaluate what was given to you last year in terms of the public investment budget for your Southwest region?
I think
I'm sure it was not invested or implemented to the full because of what we're talking about here?
Yeah, I think even in normal times, it is not implemented 100%, though I'm not a member of one of the boards. Yeah, but I would say that everything is relatively good as far as this crisis period is concerned. You can't feel that things are the same like they were in 2017, 2018. So it's on the ascending trend. Things are improving, and we are very hopeful that as days go by, it's going to be perfect.
You spoke about the presidential plan for the development of the northwest and southwest regions. That should be what people are waiting for now. What specifically, as a representative of the people you are, would you be expecting that plan to look like? I've seen that they're asking people already to declare what was destroyed and those issues. Are the people collaborating?
They are. I think it started with the consultation meetings that the National Coordinator, Vice, and his team carried on to the Northwest and Southwest regions. You see that these meetings were very inclusive. They had to do with all the stakeholders of the communities, mayors, traditional rulers, elites, and they all attended. You see the attendance could show you the zeal and interest people have in regaining their lost property and destroyed structures. And so very inclusive because all opinions were taken into account. And I'm very hopeful because we have big, medium, and small projects. In the Northwest, I had people very interested in the Menchum Dam, which before they asked, it was already incorporated in the project. In the Southwest, our worries were the CDC, rehabilitation of the CDC, the Pamol, and even twisting towards the Limbe Deep Sea Port, which was just declared. We want to see it function. And we are hopeful that if all these major projects come to the Northwest and Southwest, we will be on our feet again in terms of employment and in terms of economic stability.
And Senator, you were part of that dialogue. When you look at the issues that were raised, things that were said, and the follow-up that's being made now, is it commensurate to your expectations?
It's quite commensurate. We can only be ungrateful to say that it's not commensurate because even during the major national dialogue, very positive outcomes were coming from A to D. You bear with me that in a few weeks we'll be having elections that will credit the Northwest and Southwest regions with a special status, which to maybe take us back to our historical origins. It's quite comforting. It's quite comforting. This presidential plan too, it's a practical example of the fallouts of the major national dialogue, which will benefit the communities and its populations. Yeah.
You were speaking also of dialogue continuing. You said you have continued dialogue at the level of the division. What specifically are you doing with this dialogue you're talking about?
I think this is not the right place to declare what we are doing, but as a traditional ruler in my community, I do it on a daily basis. I think if there are negative forces, it is our duty to make them positive because it's clear that cessation is impossible, but inclusion and continuous development of our communities is more realistic, and we stand for that.
One issue that has been hitting headline news is the treatment given traditional rulers like you in both regions. It should be a pathetic story when you were told that some of your peers, some leaders you are, were killed.
Yeah, I think those are some of the negative consequences or effects of the crisis plaguing the Northwest and Southwest regions. We have lost some of our customary values, sacredness of human beings. I think when we grew up, we knew that in the Southwest region, nobody could kill a fly because we are peace-loving people. Just like in the Northwest, I don't think we are prone to war. But this time, war has come. These upheavals have come to dilute some of our core values, which were respect, humility, gentleness, and love for one another. I think the church is doing a lot in terms of prayers. Traditional rulers are doing a lot to try to rekindle these values so that we go back to the good footing that gave us the development we used to have some days. You would bear with me that most of the prominent Cameroonians are schooled in Northwest and Southwest regions when you have to talk about schools like CPC and SASE. I think we are not doing any good to ourselves, for some of these schools have moved to Douala and in Yaoundé. The backbone of the economy of places like Northwest region were education. Some of us have schooled there. I think our youths should reckon that they are doing a lot of harm to their economy, to their social values, and it's good to rethink, especially for those who are abroad. I think they are learned enough to know that we are not helping ourselves.
What language, Senator von Lekunze Nembo, do you use when you are speaking, especially with these our sons and daughters, our brothers from the Northwest and Southwest regions who are funding this crisis from out of the country?
It could only be fatherly language without arguing, but trying to prove to them, as I've just been doing here, that we are doing more harm than good to ourselves, rather than accepting the national values and institutions of our country to benefit more, as we are already gaining. You can see that the traditional rulers have been incorporated in the management of the public affairs, as far as the House of Chiefs has been brought back to the Northwest and Southwest regions. It brings us to the limelight to bring our problems on board and get solutions to them. It all depends on us to be more objective and to be more inclusive, to tend to our people, get their worries, table them to the region, and they are brought up and financed for inclusive development in our country.
At the level of the elites and the preparations for the December 6 elections, how far are you going, and you're set, you're ready?
We are ready as far as the College of Traditional Rulers is concerned, and for delegates, it's not my place to say that. I think the party is well organized, and the party leadership is taking good care of that.
We invited you here as a traditional ruler, as a custodian of the traditions. I want to know from you now, in the Belém we come from, if you were to rebuild the traditional artifacts that have been destroyed, it will not be an easy thing, I want to presume.
Yeah, it will not be easy, but it's about means. If the means is there, we could do it and even do it better, because I think culture has to do with material and immaterial culture. So most of the artifacts we have, they have a history of origin. They have forms that they looked like, and some of them have pictures. But the sacredness in it, the spirituality in it may not be rekindled. There are certain things that are wild to say here, because like in my own palace that was ravaged with fire, there were artifacts there that were empowered hundreds of years ago when people could still use human beings to do sacrifices to empower certain things. But today we have alternatives to that. Some animals, we do sacrifices with chicken, goats, and I think it still holds. We could try to get the maximum of that. Yeah.
Well, Senator, we shall be having, after you leave us, one of your sons. He's from the Belém, Ebenezer Kanga. He is a senior journalist here and reporter with the political service. We'll be talking to us about the meeting with the Minister of Territorial Administration, where the governors are here today, preaching the same language of peace, unity, and reconciliation for Cameroonians. But then, we can't let you go, Senator. We can't let you go Mbe. You can't let you go traditional ruler without that appeal you have for those your children who are still in the bushes holding guns. Can you make that appeal to them?
Yeah, I think it's not the first time I will be making that. But one thing they must know is that you can't change nature. And in nature, there are the elders, and there must be a father and a son. What I want to tell them very convincingly is that we, as their parents, cannot lead them to a fall, to fall on a hill, as they say in dialect. We cannot lead them to go and collapse and fail. We can only lead them to where they will succeed. And so the way forward is for them to drop their guns, come to us, join the DDR centers, and benefit like their brothers and sisters who are already benefiting there, so that we could join the development trend of Cameroon and get our own share to our various divisions.
Because the problem is that if we drop arms, where do we go to? Are there job opportunities? Are there employment opportunities? I heard you talking about the Limbe deep sea port coming up, the CDC that's being restructured. That should be good news for them too.
But the budget of last year, just like that of today, is very convincing. If we have not benefited like other divisions which are not in the Northwest and Southwest, it's because of our personal force, because we didn't give peace a chance for contractors to execute these contracts. So I'm appealing that this present budget that will soon be introduced in Parliament is going to be very convincing. It's a budget that will englobe the mitigation of the adverse effects of the COVID-19 on the economy. It's going to even be envisaging the universal health coverage and a host of other projects like this AFCON and the National Youth Plan, which has to do with your expectations. I think the National Youth Plan, which is targeting the emergence of Cameroon by 2035, is one of those projects that I would advise them not to miss. If they drop their arms, they are going to readily get jobs.
I want to thank you so very much, Senator von Lekunze Nembo, for taking time off your busy schedule to be with us now. Thank you very much, Senator.
It's always a pleasure, Mr. Moki.
Let's have another break, and then we'll receive Ebenezer Kanga with the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganje.
Merci de nous faire confiance comme ceci tous les dimanches. Lorsqu'il est 18h, on a 1h30 à passer ensemble à décrypter toute l'actualité sportive de la semaine.
Aujourd'hui, on a simplement revu l'organigramme et que là, le ministère des Sports ou encore le gouvernement de la République a pris les choses en main.
Vous allez voir que le CHAN est assez symptomatique de la réalité des clubs africains. Quand vous voyez le RD Congo qui a 2 CHAN, le parallèle tout de suite avec la toute-puissance de Mazembe.
Eh bien, mardi, d'abord, une surprise. Une petite surprise, on va le dire, c'était au Santiago Bernabéu. Mardi donc, le Real Madrid affrontait le FC Bruges. Pascal Siakam, lui, a contribué à la victoire des Toronto Raptors face au Detroit. 13 points derrière le Paris Saint-Germain. Merlin.
Merci beaucoup.
Pas du tout, soyons sérieux, c'était une grosse bouffe. Heureusement qu'ils se sont rattrapés. Tara 237, le code du Cameroun.
Les batailles d'individus, ça ne nous mène nulle part. Et il faut donc justement qu'on apprenne à dialoguer et qu'on apprenne à collaborer.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.
Merci de nous retrouver pour cette édition de ressources.
Nous avons fait des formations sur les thèmes.
L'ambition du ministère de l'Habitat est de démarrer. C'est le moment de prendre le round-up économique de la semaine. Alors vous venez avec les dernières informations sur l'économie au Cameroun et un peu au-delà.
Toutes les régions ont abrité des comices agro-pastoraux.
Il y aura une voie d'emprise de 29 mètres et des équipements connexes.
Le ministre de l'Eau et de l'Énergie, Gaston Elundou Essomba, a lancé le 25 novembre dernier un programme de suivi, de contrôle.
Tous les spécimens partout dans le monde et on cherche à faire des cross-breeds.
Le monde agro-pastoral se déploie ainsi dans un contexte de crise sociopolitique avec un risque d'insécurité alimentaire.
Et pour sortir, on va prendre la direction du Kenya pour parler de ce petit détour.
The second semester conference of governors going on in Yaoundé at this particular moment. It was opened by Territorial Administration Minister Paul Atanganje this morning in the nation's capital. Joining me is political desk reporter, senior reporter, Ebenezer Kanga. Good evening, Ebenezer.
Good evening, Edwin.
And thanks for always coming
here.
It's
a pleasure for me to be on the program today.
I saw you taking notes when the senator was speaking.
Yes, was saying very nice things. And I hope our brothers out there in Lebialem, in Wabane subdivision, I hope they've understood the phone.
In my tradition, in not when the phone speaks, he has spoken. He has spoken. Desecrating those traditions
he has
now.
Spoken. When the phone speaks, he has spoken.
Thank you very much. Now, you have been following the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganje. You've been following the governors' meeting in Yaoundé. How is the situation like? What is the outcome? What are they saying at the meetings there?
Well, Edwin, I should begin by saying that the the text states that the governors are supposed to hold 2 conferences a year. One within the first 6 months of the year, and the second within the last 6 months of the year. So the conference that opened today is the one of the last semester for the year 2020. The one for the first semester held sometime back, I think in March this year. And I should also say that each conference comes in a particular context. So the second semester conference for 2020 comes within a peculiar context, a very, very peculiar context. And there's a general context of insecurity throughout managing insecurity throughout the country. But each region also has its own peculiar problem, which the minister asked each of the governors to address and find solutions to. If you take the northwest and southwest regions, for example, we already have this problem of cessation, of armed rebellion, which the government is trying to deal with. But what has come up new these days is the attack on schools. The academic year started pretty well in the northwest and southwest regions. In fact, opinion is unanimous that since the crisis started, this year was a very, very different one in terms of school attendance. But the separatist terrorists have started attacking schools. They have attacked schools in the southwest, the northwest, in order to disrupt the academic year. So that is what is peculiar at this moment in the northwest and southwest regions. Now, if you come to the littoral region in Douala, there's a phenomenon that has come up there, what they call the microbes, in which a group of youths go in groups of youths go to the streets, assaulting people and snatching their money and belongings. So the governor of the littoral region has the challenge to tackle that particular problem, to tackle the problem of microbes, which is cropping up in Douala. If you come to the center region, the center has been quiet and calm for quite some time. But you know, for some months now, we've been having cases of acts of terrorism with the detonation of improvised explosive devices. It is true, up to now, we've not yet recorded any human loss, but we've been having acts of terrorism with the detonation of improvised explosive devices. And so the governor was asked to put an eye on that particular aspect. If you go to the east region, the situation in the Central African Republic is not yet better. And the effects are being felt very much in the east. So the governor too has to keep an eye on the border with the east region. Up to the Adamawa region, the Adamawa and the north, they too are suffering from a spillover of the conflict in the Central African region. The government recently, the Minister of Defense, the Defense Forces recently put up an operation which they called Adanu, in which specialized forces and the National Gendarmerie went in chasing those who were taking cattle rearers as hostages and also snatching their cows. We'll talk to the governor today. We said the situation has calmed down relatively and they're enjoying some relative peace in the Adamawa region. And up in the far north, of course, you know that they're still battling with the Boko Haram situation there. So you see, almost every region has a problem that's peculiar to it that it has to tackle. So at this governors' conference that opened today, the Minister of Territorial Administration touched on all of those. And he also talked about COVID-19, the COVID-19 pandemic, which many Cameroonians mistakenly think has ended. But we are having cases of this disease resurfacing, especially in the West region, where we're even told that about 17 cases were detected in one day in the West region. And the governor of the West region, our Funko Augustine, told me that in the beginning, the disease was limited just to the Mifi and Nun divisions. But now a disease has now been detected. Cases have not been detected in subdivisions and within communities around Penka Michel. So the disease has resurfaced in the West region, and so the authorities have to take measures to tackle. That's a particular challenge for them. So you see, each region has its own challenge, a peculiar challenge. Besides the general challenge of the country, each region has its own challenge that it has to face. So in addressing the governors today, the Minister of Territorial Administration urged them to keep an eye on these challenges which are peculiar to the regions, apart from looking at the general interest, the general problem of security for the whole country. If you wouldn't mind it, Edwin, well, let's listen to the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, in an excerpt of his statement which he made this morning at the Governors' Conference. Here's Paul Atanganji.
Government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic must remain a national concern, and it is time to remain vigilant, for COVID-19 has not been eradicated. As we all know, the challenges ahead of us are numerous and daunting. At the end of our deliberations, we are expected to provide adequate and practical answers to security concerns related to the organization of regional elections and end-of-year festivities. These measures will then add to the measures already taken by the government of the Republic prior to the start and holding of classes in the regions, strengthening security system and territorial networking, and safeguarding schools specifically in the Northwest, Southwest, and Far North regions. Consequently, vigilance and anticipation already prescribed must be maintained and even intensified. This implies that intelligence should be at the center of all our priorities. We have security challenges which we must tackle scrupulously.
Minister of Territorial Administration, Minister Paul Atanganji, but you've spoken about these challenges everywhere. Almost every region has a specificity. How is the country ready for elections in December 6th?
Yes, that was the key issue of this conference, to prepare for the upcoming regional elections. And the minister told the governors that the head of state has instructed that elections should hold in all the 10 regions and in serenity. We talked to the governors of the Northwest and Southwest regions. That's where much of the worry is. But they told us they've had to organize presidential elections, senatorial elections, municipal elections, and parliamentary elections, and that they are ready for this other election, that the elections will be organized. The material is there, and the distribution of voters' cards has started. So the conference is the December 6th regional elections, which the minister says must be organized in all the 10 regions of the country and in serenity, and called on administrative authorities to personally accompany Elekam. Accompany Elekam in what? In helping them take out their materials to all the polling stations, to protect, to safeguard and protect the electors, and also protect the Elekam staff so that they carry out the elections safely and the results published normally.
We followed the earlier reports talking about the distribution of voters' cards.
Yes.
Was it raised there that it's efficient, it's going on smoothly?
No, you know, the distribution of voters' cards, that one depends on Elekam. It's not the Minister of Territorial Administration that distributes voters' cards. And what the ministry has to do, like in the Northwest and Southwest, what the administrative authorities have to do is to accompany Elekam to make sure that the voters are able to collect their voters' cards, to make sure that the voters come out and vote and then go back to their homes safely. So it was not raised there because it is Elekam that is in charge of distributing voters' cards.
I want to thank you very much, Ebenezer Kanga, for coming.
Thanks very much, Edwin. It's been a great pleasure.
For assuring Cameroonians that the government is bent on organizing credible elections on December 6th. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Edwin.
It is getting to 7 o'clock in Yaoundé, and at 7 o'clock we shall be going to the newsroom to meet Nadia Amana for what would have made news in Cameroon, Africa, and the rest of the world. And I'm very certain she's going to be talking to us about the match Cameroon was playing against Mozambique this day in Mozambique, and the outcome of that match. We shall also be learning about the Governors' Conference that Ebenezer Kongo was talking about, and other issues about news-making events in Cameroon, in Africa, and the rest of the world. Just to indicate that before this, we received here in the studio the senator from the Southwest region, von Nembo Lekunze. We also had the award-winning Dr. Munang Richard, who is in Nairobi in Kenya. He was here to talk about a recent trophy he had, that of the Africa Green Champion Award that was given him. It's exactly 7 o'clock in Yaoundé and we're going to the newsroom. Bonsoir Nadia.
Bonsoir Moki Edwin Kinzeka.
C'est l'heure du journal.
Tout à fait Moki. Bonsoir chers téléspectateurs et bienvenue à cette édition de 19h sur CRTV News. Nous ouvrons ce journal avec la stratégie nationale de développement. C'est la nouvelle boussole des politiques nationales de développement au Cameroun. Le document a été présenté officiellement ce 16 novembre par le ministre de l'économie, de la planification et de l'aménagement du territoire Alamine Ousmane, mais à l'hôtel Hilton de Yaoundé. Notre reporter Daoud Moulioum a été à cette présentation. Regardons.
Sur la forme, la stratégie nationale de développement est contenue dans un livre unique de 214 et 207 pages, rédigé en français et en anglais. Dans le fond, elle présente la nouvelle orientation politique générale du Cameroun pour les 10 prochaines années. Cette politique repose sur 4 piliers, à savoir la transformation structurelle de l'économie, le développement du capital humain, la promotion de l'emploi et l'insertion des jeunes dans le circuit économique et enfin la gouvernance, la décentralisation et la gestion stratégique de l'État. Sa présentation ce 16 novembre s'est faite en présence et visioconférence des membres du gouvernement, du corps diplomatique, des responsables des organisations patronales et administrations diverses, ainsi que de la société civile. Exposés explicatifs et allocutions de contextualisation ont meublé les échanges et renseigné le public.
4,6% dans un contexte d'inflation maîtrisée, avec bien entendu le souhait de voir cette croissance-là bénéficier au maximum de nos populations. Ce sont les piliers stratégiques qui constituent la SND 30 pour cette nouvelle période qui vont certainement trancher avec ce que nous avons pu faire avec succès relatif, mais avec la volonté d'aller plus loin.
La conscience et l'ambition d'un pays émergent, démocratique et uni dans sa diversité vient ainsi d'amorcer sa deuxième phase. Exit DSCE, place au SND 30.
Les synergies africaines contre la pandémie du sida et les souffrances ont 18 ans ce jour. L'organisation panafricaine créée par la première dame du Cameroun, Chantal Biya, œuvre au quotidien dans l'action humanitaire. Question de donner du courage, du sourire et surtout de l'espoir aux personnes vulnérables. Voici le rappel des combats de cette association avec Arlette Tessot.
Les synergies africaines au top de l'action humanitaire en Afrique. En 18 ans d'existence, l'ONG qui regroupe les premières dames d'Afrique et celles d'autres continents a fait de la lutte pour la fin du travail des enfants et autres services subis par ceux-ci son combat de pro. Par ses actions à travers le continent, l'initiative lancée par la première dame du Cameroun, Chantal Biya, s'est investie pour l'éradication de multiples autres fléaux. C'est le cas de la lutte contre les problèmes rencontrés par la femme rurale. Dans la ligne de mire des synergies africaines, il faut noter la lutte contre le VIH-Sida. L'ONG brille depuis 2002 au Cameroun par ses actions de sensibilisation menées dans le cadre des vacances sans sida. À l'échelle du continent, l'ONG s'est investie dans le domaine de la prévention et de la transmission du VIH de la mère à l'enfant. Désormais, les synergies africaines luttent aussi pour l'éradication du coronavirus, pandémie intégrée dans son plan d'action.
Les régionales se profilent à l'horizon. Les électeurs du département du Foundi dans la région du centre peuvent désormais entrer en possession de leur carte d'électeur à l'agence départementale d'élections Cameroun. Nadège Mbaïma pour les détails.
À l'agence départementale d'élecam du Foundi, tout est fin prêt pour la distribution des cartes d'électeurs, disponibles depuis quelques jours déjà.
Le département du Foundi a reçu ses cartes d'électeurs depuis jeudi
Donc, dans un premier temps, il a d'abord fallu faire le tri et une répartition par arrondissement. Donc, depuis ce matin, donc, ça a été fait et les différents électeurs des différents collèges électoraux passent, notamment les choses traditionnelles et puis les conseillers municipaux. Et il faut le rappeler que le retrait est fait individuellement. Il n'y a pas de procuration.
Les 281 électeurs municipaux et les 150 électeurs du commandement traditionnel du 6 décembre prochain du Mfundi peuvent d'ailleurs déjà se procurer leur précieux sésame.
Donc, depuis ce matin, donc, nous avons déjà distribué près de 5 cartes d'électeurs. Donc, 4 pour le commandement traditionnel et une carte pour les conseillers municipaux. D'après la loi et selon un communiqué aussi appuyé par monsieur le directeur général des élections, ça commence ce matin et c'est durant 20 jours jusqu'au scrutin.
Au-delà d'attendre calmement sur place d'éventuels électeurs, les agents des LECAM multiplient les stratégies pour appâter, se rapprocher des électeurs les plus dubitatifs. Et pour ça, une rencontre est prévue avec les maires du Mfundi.
Toujours dans l'actualité, les patrons des régions sont en conclave à Yaoundé depuis ce matin dans le cadre de leur deuxième rencontre annuelle. Au menu de l'assise, l'élection régionale du 6 décembre prochain et la sécurité dans le pays en cette fin d'année. Les travaux sont conduits par le ministre territorial, Paul Atangandi. Christelle Avom.
Les mêmes dispositifs qui ont été mis en place lors des dernières élections va être reconduit avec beaucoup d'améliorations et cette fois-ci comme garantie avec le support accru, la collaboration accrue de la population.
Nous avons accompagné les CAM du début et nous entendons l'accompagner jusqu'à la fin. Les matériels ont été acheminés. La sécurisation a été simulée jusqu'à la remontée des procès-verbaux le jour des élections. Donc, à ce niveau, aucun problème majeur n'a été enregistré jusqu'ici.
Toujours dans l'actualité de ce jour, renforcer les capacités des droits des consommateurs d'eau embouteillée ou en sachet. Le sujet du séminaire organisé ce jour à Yaoundé par la plateforme camerounaise du commerce équitable. Les travaux ont vu la participation de plusieurs experts et du président national de la consommation. C'était sous le regard de notre reporter Yvonne Gaël-Aveugle.
L'eau, cette denrée vitale pour sa consommation, a des exigences réglementaires et normatives en matière d'hygiène, d'exploitation et de commercialisation. Les travaux organisés par la plateforme camerounaise du commerce équitable P2CE et encadrés par le Conseil national de la consommation ont un objectif précis.
C'est un cadre d'examen du domaine de l'eau au Cameroun sous tous les angles, sous tous les aspects.
Des leaders d'associations seront donc formés au cours de ces travaux par des experts issus du milieu universitaire en vue d'assainir le marché des eaux de boisson au Cameroun.
Certains de ces présidents qui n'ont pas dans leur effectif des experts en matière d'eau, parce qu'ils couvrent un champ très vaste, ils vont donc être outillés sur les problèmes de l'eau, du captage jusqu'à la commercialisation.
C'est donc le début d'une campagne de sensibilisation et d'éducation du consommateur sur la qualité des eaux.
Parlons culture à présent, plus précisément de cinéma. Blanche Bana, comédienne camerounaise, vient d'être sacrée meilleure actrice de la sous-région Afrique centrale. C'était au Sotigu Award 2020 à Ouagadougou, au Burkina Faso. Blanche Bana, l'étoile du cinéma camerounais, c'est une peinture d'Aminatou Bindoro.
Le trophée du Sotigu Award 2020, elle l'a soulevé dans la catégorie de la meilleure actrice d'Afrique centrale. Une récompense bien méritée que la comédienne Blanche Bana doit à sa participation dans la production du film, si loin, si près du réalisateur saturnin Ayenouet. Originaire du département de la Meufouakono dans le centre, Blanche Bana, de son vrai nom Blanche Bilongo, est née en 1974. Son rêve d'enfant était de devenir pilote, mais c'est devant la caméra que l'actrice réalise des exploits. Elle se lance véritablement dans le 7e art en 2012 avec le film Le Colis 1 réalisé par Parfait Zambo. Une production qui lui ouvre très vite les portes du succès. Femme forte et affirmée, rôle qu'elle a incarné dans une quinzaine de longs courts-métrages et séries télévisées. Lauréate de plusieurs prix, notamment meilleure actrice aux écrans noirs en 2015, Blanche Bana est la 3e Camerounaise à s'illustrer à ce grand rendez-vous du cinéma africain.
En sport éliminatoire CAN Total 2022, le Cameroun consolide sa première place du groupe F. L'équipe nationale a enregistré ce lundi une deuxième victoire face au Mozambique. Victoire 2-0 en match retour de la 3e journée tenue à Maputo. Les buts des Lions indomptables portent les signatures de Vincent Aboubakar et de Serge Tabekou. Allons à présent hors de nos frontières. Pas d'accord sur un nouveau gouvernement d'union nationale en Libye. La discussion sur l'avenir politique du pays. Les discussions donc sur l'avenir politique du pays ont été suspendues sans que soit nommé un nouvel exécutif chargé de superviser une période de transition qui devra aboutir aux élections en 2021. Adèle Sylviane Kalga.
Les délégués libyens chargés de mettre sur pied un exécutif unifié ne sont pas parvenus à un accord sur les noms de leurs futurs dirigeants et reprendront alors les discussions dans une semaine. Un accord avait été trouvé sur les élections nationales le 24 décembre 2021. Les délégués étaient également chargés de désigner un chef de gouvernement et les 3 membres d'un conseil présidentiel chargé de former un exécutif unifié chargé de prendre le relais des institutions rivales. La Libye est plongée dans des violences depuis le soulèvement appuyé par l'OTAN qui a renversé le régime de Muammar Kadhafi en 2011 avec une myriade de milices qui se disputent des territoires sur lesquels les autorités civiles peinent à s'imposer. L'ONU n'a pas précisé dans l'immédiat quelles seraient les prérogatives du président du Conseil présidentiel à qui il a notamment été question de confier le poste de chef des armées. Ce futur exécutif unifié censé ne gouverner qu'un an sera chargé d'organiser les élections et de répondre aux besoins des Libyens. Ces discussions se déroulent à la faveur d'un cessez-le-feu formalisé en octobre après l'échec de l'offensive lancée en avril 2019 par les forces pro-Haftar contre Tripoli. Des avancées ont été enregistrées sur le plan économique, militaire et politique après plusieurs séries de pourparlers. Des négociations menées parallèlement cette semaine entre les représentants des forces militaires du Gon et du maréchal Haftar ont abouti à un accord prévoyant le retrait de tous les mercenaires et combattants étrangers de cette zone où le front s'est stabilisé au printemps. Mais les avancées politiques annoncées à Tunis restent pour le moment très théoriques.
Et c'est sur cette actualité en Libye que nous refermons cette édition du journal. Ne partez pas, nous vous laissons en compagnie de Moki Edwin Kinzeka pour la suite de Twilight. Bonne suite Moki.
Thank you Nadia Mana. We shall be entering the last segment of our program tonight, and the last segment is on the supplement, which has to do with political developments in the country. We'll have a break and a supplement. Our supplement today looked at political issues in the country, a meeting of governors and preparations for the upcoming elections. Christelle Avom, good evening.
Effectivement, bonsoir Moki. Le pool politique vous offre le supplément ce soir. Et c'est l'actualité du jour, à savoir la deuxième conférence semestrielle des gouverneurs de région. Invités à la table de débat, la situation sanitaire dans les différentes régions, à savoir le Covid-19, mais aussi les mesures envisagées en vue de l'encadrement sécuritaire de l'élection des conseillers régionaux le 6 décembre prochain, c'est-à-dire dans 20 jours très exactement. À cet effet, chaque gouverneur de région présente un exposé de la situation sécuritaire dans sa circonscription administrative. À cet effet, écoutons des brefs résumés dans les régions du sud-ouest et du nord-ouest. Nous allons avoir ces éléments recueillis par nos reporters.
avec beaucoup d'améliorations et cette fois-ci comme garantie avec le support accru, la collaboration accrue de la population. Parce que la population est plus que déterminée pour que les activités reprennent, l'ordre normal revienne dans la région. Et cette population attend avec impatience le résultat de ces élections qui va conduire.
There are some measures, of course, you know I cannot disclose here, but you should be rest assured that yes, we are going to organize those elections despite some challenges. We are up to the task and we are going like we did for the presidential elections. The regional elections are also going to be organized in the Northwest region. The electorates are mobilized. The polling station has been identified. And the campaign is going soon to start. I'm inviting you all to come to the Northwest region to cover and monitor the process during those elections.
Dans la région de l'extrême nord, la situation sécuritaire s'améliore de plus en plus. Tout revient à la normale, mais surtout le gouverneur de la région de l'extrême nord, Midiwa Bakari, rassure et plaide pour la réouverture des postes douaniers des frontières qui apportaient un bel essor économique à cette région. Il parle aussi de la situation des réfugiés dans le cas de Minawao où ils sont plus de 65 000. Écoutons-le dans cet extrait.
C'est une région, comme vous le savez, a subi les affres de la secte Boko Haram pendant plus de 10 ans, avec les conséquences néfastes que nous connaissons. L'arrêt de toute activité économique, socio-culturelle. Les écoles ont été arrêtées, ont fermé leurs portes, les hôpitaux brûlés, les marchés, tout ce qu'on peut imaginer. Donc, avec les efforts qui ont été fournis, la région reprend progressivement vie. Vous vous rendez compte, nous avons pu réouvrir toutes les écoles primaires comme collèges, avec l'appui de nos forces de défense et de sécurité, mais des comités de vigilance. Le chef de l'État a mis un point d'honneur sur la réouverture des écoles, mais également la réhabilitation des dispensaires et autres. Nous avons accompagné les camps du début et nous entendons l'accompagner jusqu'à la fin. Les matériels ont été acheminés, la sécurisation a été simulée jusqu'à la remontée des procès-verbaux le jour des élections. Donc à ce niveau, aucun problème majeur n'a été
Aucun problème majeur n'a été constaté jusque-là. Cela rassure sur la tenue des prochaines élections régionales sur toute l'étendue du territoire. Je tiens quand même à vous rappeler qu'il était aussi question de formation avec un exposé du ministre de la décentralisation et du développement local, Georges Elanga Obam, qui a fait un exposé sur l'implication du gouverneur dans la mise en place des organes dans la région. Un exposé fort, important. Demain, mardi, sont prévues des séances à huis clos avec le ministre de la décentralisation et aussi, plus important, avec le ministre de l'administration territoriale. C'est tout ce que nous avions pour ce package pour le supplément politique sur CRTV News. Mais tout de suite, Twilight continue avec vous, Moki.
Thanks very much, Christella Vom. And we've gathered that all security measures have been put in place for the effective holding of the elections next December 6th throughout the national territory, and that peace is returning to the northwest and southwest regions. Peace is also returning to the far north region where Boko Haram atrocities, as we gathered from the governor, Michi Yawa Bakari, asking for the customs post to be reopened and also asking for children to go to school, that peace is coming back to that part of the country. It is with that, Christella Vom, that we'll come to the end of today's edition of Twilight on CRTV News. I want to thank the Senator from Lekunze Nembo of the Southwest region, who was here to talk to us about the interparliamentary activities, and of course to also talk about the expectations from the 2021 state budget.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.